Welcome to Feminine Roadmap Podcast. I'm your host, Gina-r-Farrar. Each week, I bring you an inspiring conversation to help you navigate the challenges and changes of midlife so that you can not only survive, but thrive in your second half. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. It is Gina here, and today we are going to be talking about something very powerful and encouraging. And I believe this is a message you need to grab a girlfriend and listen together to. We are going to be talking about no matter how far you fall, no matter the condition of your heart or your life, you can get back up. It is time to dust off your cape and step into your purpose and healing as your own hero. And to have this conversation with me today, our expert is Kelly Fuhlman. She's an entrepreneur, a speaker, and the author of Be the Hero and Rescue Yourself, Creating the Inner Courage to Wear Your Own Cape. Kelly, thank you so much for saying yes to me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute my pleasure. So I'm excited to meet new folks and talk to other women to help build our tribe. This is what it's all about, to build each other up.
Right. And we need that so much right now.
We do.
Now, I would love to have you share with my tribe who you are and what led you to this specific message.
So I'm 42 years old, and I have either through life happens or I've made life happen to myself. I've been through quite a bit, from my dyslexia, struggling with that since I was little, and then growing up and working through addiction and, working through corporate America and having to kind of sit down and look at my life and look at the lessons that I've learned over the years. And I knew as a young girl, I wanted to be a public speaker. That was something that I always wanted to do. I wanted to talk to people for a living. I was 10. I told my mom, I said, "Mom, one day people are going to pay me to talk." She was like, "I believe you, because you talk to mannequins at the mall if nobody talked to you." And so I grew up, and then I started working for Disney, and I was meeting a bunch of folks through networking events there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I met a man named Bill Wallace, and he introduced me to Tammy Kling and her group at On Fire Books. And we sat down, and she looked at me, she says, "Kelly, you've got a book in you." And I was like, "Who wants to read a book about me? I'm like, I got all these stories. I'll just speak for a living." She goes, "Well, Kelly, if you want to speak for a living, a book is a great way, but you've got so many great lessons in your life." She goes, "You need to put them down in a book." So it took about 3 years to kind of get me convinced that I needed to write a book. And we started putting it together, and we had a title for it, but I didn't like it. I wasn't really fond of it. It says, "Yes, you can." And I'm like, well, sometimes I feel like I can't. So what the hell does that mean? So we started writing the lessons, and we got done at the end of the book. And as I was reading through it, I said, "You know what?" I said, I went back to what my mom always tells me is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. The horse has to drink the water themselves. You can bring them water all day long. You can give them buckets. And through my life, I've had tons of heroes. I've had tons of people who have come in and rescued me and helped me through some tough things, opened up doors and opportunities that I had never dreamed of before. But at the end of the day, I had to put my own cape on, and I had to rescue myself. I had to put the work in. I had to put the words down on the paper. I had to trust myself and God and my family that we could put these stories out there and we were going to be okay. And so here you are. I mean, cape and all. Sometimes it's wrinkled and sometimes it's pretty. It just depends on what morning I wake up.
No, isn't it true? We were talking about before we hit record just how much life can come at you sometimes.
Mm-hmm. It can. It is. I'll tell you, just within the last couple of months, well, just in the last year, my best friend's my husband's best friend passed away within the same week that I was laid off with Disney. And so went to a funeral, and then my dad's Alzheimer's moved into a completely different level within the same week. So the day that I went and shipped all my Disney stuff back to Disney, I was, driving into Beaumont, back roads in a rental truck, and some sort of piece of iron hit my tire, and it was 9 o'clock at night. It was a 2-lane highway. It was pitch dark, and the tire went down, and it was late, and I know how to change my own tire. I mean, I'm a gearhead. My family's a gearhead, but I didn't want to get out because I didn't know where I was. It was out in the middle of nowhere. There was no lights, and I unraveled. I completely lost my mess. And luckily enough, I call my stepmom, who her son, my stepbrother, is a police officer. He calls the Sheriff's Department of New Waverly Sheriffs, calls in a favor. They come and rescue me. And that poor little sheriff opens up the door and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And I just absolutely just light him up. And I'm like, "This happened, and then this happened, and this happened. And you know what else pisses me off?" And he's like, "Let it out, baby." And I was like, "I can change my own damn tire." And he's like, "It's okay, baby. It's okay." And so he changed my tire. He wouldn't let me lift anything. And another one of his sheriff buddies. So, sometimes you can be your own hero. And yes, sometimes you can do things yourself. But on the other end, you truly have to ask for help too of other heroes, because, every hero has a sidekick. Every hero has a team. Every hero has somebody or somewhere or some people supporting them to get them through, because you can't do this by yourself. And I have realized that through my book, through life, and everything else that has come my way. And, the punches don't go away. Sometimes shit hits the fan and someone turns it on. And you just gotta push through. And that's where you have your team. That's where you have your tribe. That's where you have your group to be able to help you get through it.
It's such a powerful reminder that asking for help doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you need help. You
need help. And as a Southern woman who we are bred to be strong and be quiet and don't ever ask for help and don't have emotions, and you're supposed to be there and be beautiful, and that is a tough lesson to learn through life. And asking for that help, and in business from my husband too, just saying, "I need help today," or I'm a mess today. Or, just admitting that you need a hug sometimes is so important. And it's difficult. I've been in bodybuilding all my life. My dad was my and you're supposed to be strong. You have this sense of strength, and you don't want people to see you as weak. But I think people need to see authenticity now. And I think people need to know that it's okay to have a meltdown. It's okay to have a moment. Just don't stay there, and ask for help when you need it. Don't crawl into your corner and just lock everybody out. It's a lesson learned. I'll tell you that.
I feel like women in general will have a tendency to be the anchor in most families. We're the ones that everybody comes to with their problems. We're the ones that are trying to hold all the pieces together. We're trying to clean that fan as fast as possible. We're covered in it, but we're trying to keep it off everybody else. Right?
Oh my gosh, that's so true. The visual. I got my Clorox. I'm scrubbing.
I think that's part of the thing. Even though you're Southern and I'm not, I'm a California girl, born and bred, not necessarily proud of California, but let's just leave that to the side. I would say that depending on the kind of family that you grow up in and the situations that you experienced, some of us learn that you can't rely on other people.
Yep.
That you're darn right you have to wear your own cape, because ain't nobody else going to help you. You know what I mean? Like, there's this spectrum where you've got the people who, I don't know, they get everybody to do everything for them. Right. I don't know how you get that gig.
I would love to find that one, but I don't think I'd be happy.
Right. But, let's talk a little bit about when you're talking about dusting off your cape and stepping into your purpose. Would you flesh that out for us, exactly what you're talking about? Because it's very much like, "I'll just put your cape on, you can do it." And it's very much like a little phrase that I think has been used so much that I would love to hear your perspective and have it framed in the way that you want people to receive it.
So I actually wrote a LinkedIn article about finding your purpose. And we walk in looking at our purpose, and we so often look at ourselves through our kids, through our husband, through our family, through our businesses, through everybody, everything else, except for truly looking inside and finding ourselves first, and then being able to walk into your purpose. And that takes a lot of growing up time. That takes a lot of time alone, writing down your thoughts, maybe even sometimes going back into your old writings as a little kid. Because I feel like as children, we have this innate ability of knowing what our purpose was when we were little, and it just gets warped over the years through disappointment, through, life happening, through death and everything else, people leaving and coming back into your life, or whatever happens in your life. Social media now, this is what you should look like. This is what you should be. This is how you should act. I call Instagram Insta perfect, because you have to be perfect on that thing to do anything, anything, right? So it's difficult to understand who you are first, and then figure out what your purpose is. And I was moving up the ladder with DeVry University, and I had one of my reps sit down and say, so who are you, Kelly? And I started with my resume, and I was young. I started with my resume, lining this wall. I've got a master's degree, and I'm blah, blah, and blah, blah, blah. He was like, no, that's not who you are. He was like, take the beauty queen away, take the director, the title, the mom, the wife, take it all away. Who is Kelly? And I honestly then couldn't answer it for him. And I got it wrong for many, many years. I thought I was Kelly, moving up the ladder, and I was going to be the president of a university. And then I thought I was going to be this fitness model and, do that and, be famous one day. And then I thought I was going to be with Disney for forever and move up the ladder there. I mean, you can't identify your purpose with the outside world. You've really got to do some internal thought process. And I will tell you, at this moment in time, I am a child of God who is still trying to figure out what my purpose is. And all I know is that this book was something that was put on my heart that I needed to get out, and hope it helps one human being. So right now, that's my purpose. And to go and speak to young teens and young teenagers that are going through some of the same things that I went through as a kid. And I've been able to do that for 13 years with the Denton County Sheriff's Department. I have been involved with their juvenile impact program for 13 years. And so when I go back and I ask and tell my mom, I told you I wanted to speak, and one day I was wanting to speak to troubled teens. I've been doing that for 13 freaking years. I've been doing my purpose. I've been walking in my purpose and who I am for 13 years, and didn't even realize it until I freaking got laid off, and I had to sit there with myself for quite a few months and say, you know what, this is it. This is my book, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And this is where I'm supposed to be at this moment in time, and settle in it. And it's not that I've sat idle. I've learned how to build my own website. So I didn't know how to build my own website. So I learned how to build that. I've learned how to put together a YouTube channel, and I took some YouTube creators courses, and I'm looking into taking other online courses so I can help build our trailer business's website so we can start building that business. So I'm still out there rescuing myself and learning and doing what I need to do. But I kind of have settled into, the executive corner office is what I dreamed of when I got into college, because I wanted to prove everybody wrong that told me you're dyslexic and you're too stupid and you're never going to make it through college and you're never going to make it in business. I'm tired of proving everybody wrong. I'm exhausted. And so it's just time to kind of step into mom, teacher, wife, business owner, and whatever else God sends me in whatever direction I go. But I know that helping teens in my book is what I was supposed to do. And it happened. And it was a struggle. It wasn't easy. We thought it wasn't going to happen for a while. So because of COVID and everything else, plans change and things move. But thank God I have an amazing husband who supports me and slapped me in the face, figuratively, with my cape and said, "You've already come this far, Kelly. You need to keep going. You need to push, and you need to make this happen." And here we are. I'm talking to you. So this is neat.
I would imagine that your beauty queen and fitness journey has a lot of analogies for life.
It does.
Just the struggle that those environments are, and knowing who you are and losing who you are, and plus the physical aspects of pushing through what we feel are limitations. Let's talk about limitations or perceived limitations in our lives as women and how those impact our outcomes.
The one thing a lot of us women, and I see so many mompreneurs kind of push through the thought of they have to report to an office every day to be respected and to be able to make money and to be able to provide for their family. And I think that was one of the biggest problems that I had coming out of the corporate world. And now, kind of being an entrepreneur, was I feel like I'm not providing for my family. I feel like I'm not, even though I am through other ways, we feel like we're limited to just being in the corporate world to make money and do well for ourselves. And there's so many mompreneurs out there that you see that they're doing so many things, whether it's selling makeup, whether it's selling hair care, whether it's selling or opening up their own businesses. That limitation of I'm a mom and I've only got this path to go. Either I'm a mom or I've got to be in the corporate world and my kid gets to stay in daycare. We feel like those limit ourselves. And I think that's important to understand that side. And then on the other end, being dyslexic, people told me I was limited so many times. They told me that I was limited to the type of education that I would be able to receive. They told me that I was limited to the type of opportunities out there in the world that I would be able to have. And I pushed through it. I had great parents, but I was able to push through because I wasn't diagnosed till my senior year in high school. So I struggled all through school and didn't get any help until my senior year. And so then when I went into college, I was put on probation day one. So day one, I was on probation and I took what they call remedial courses starting out in college. And none of those courses went towards my degree. An admissions advisor basically took a chance on me. He said, write me an essay, tell me why I should accept you, and then we'll figure out what we can go from there. And then I was on the dean's list from then on out after I got put off of probation and graduated with a 3.4 grade point average. And I ain't even going to tell you what my high school grade point average was. And my SAT scores were horrible. So basically those two limitations, what tests tell you, what people told me, I had to work through it. Did I party with my friends in college? No. They would go out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and they would call me, Kelly, come party. I was here at the house, at my dad's house I'm here right now, studying, highlighting, reading, typing my notes, doing all the extra things that I knew I needed to do to be able to push through and graduate with a college degree that my parents wanted me to graduate with, because both of them didn't graduate from college. My mom she was an aerobic instructor. My dad was a fireman for 31 years and he owned a small construction business. So they busted their butts to be able to pay for my college, and I graduated debt free, thank God. But I needed to push. It's just doing that little extra every day, just in bodybuilding, just like in weight loss. It's, walking into an environment in the office and they've got 50 bazillion donuts and 3 birthday cakes in the same week. And you just say, nope, not today. I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to make the decision and the choice to make some healthy choices for myself, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and be able to move past all those limitations. And you can do it. It's hard to not get bitter when people keep telling you over and over again that you can't and you're not going to be able to. And here's where you're limited. Because they were like, oh, Kelly, she'll be fine. She's beautiful. She'll marry well. Don't have to worry about it, And I think that's what drove me all my life, but it almost drove me into insanity too, because I was working so hard to prove people wrong instead of just doing what makes me happy and what makes me smile and what fills my cup or my bucket. So,
you're talking about beauty, and I always joke that beautiful people are only beautiful because there's those of us who help them look better. That's kind of like one of my jokes. It's like, because you have so many different things, different types of people.
Yep.
But I've often thought, and this is just a side note, that we do get labeled, we do get put in boxes. And I do think sometimes when someone is very beautiful, I was just saying this to my husband a couple days ago, that there's a certain pressure involved when you are one of those incredibly aesthetically pleasing people. You have a beautiful face and a beautiful body like you do, and people read that and they put meaning to it. Mm-hmm. And then our responsibility is to figure out how not to put that cape on,
right?
Put that garment on.
Right.
I'm not one of those women that has been showered with compliments on my beauty. I've never been told I'm ugly either, but I'm just somewhere in that middle ground. And I've often thought, well, that's probably a blessing. But, there are women who the way they look is a huge stumbling block for them in moving forward in their life, what they believe about how they look, the condition of their life, the condition of their body, the condition of their perspective on themselves. Mm-hmm. That just made me think that is a huge obstacle for a lot of women. Either Kelly's beautiful, she'll just marry well, as if we're in the Victorian era and that's your only option.
Right. No. She got good hips. Okay, great.
Hips are birthing hips, and that's a good one. My family's from in the Midwest, so the birth and hips thing I totally get. But I think there is something to that. That is often perceived as a limitation, whether you're too pretty or you're not pretty enough, or your body looks a certain way. And so when we're talking about dusting off our cape and stepping into our own healing, let's take a moment and talk about our perception of ourselves, not the outside world, but they've probably contributed. Let's be honest. The comments that people make about you your whole life do stick.
Yep, they do.
But let's talk about that kind of healing and what that looks like for a woman.
I think that's a lot of sitting down and really looking at yourself. My mom always said, even though they're beautiful on the outside, if you're not beautiful on the inside, then you're still ugly. My mom is a Southern belle, and she has all these Southern sayings. And that was one that stuck with me always, is you've got to be beautiful on the inside, but what does that freaking look like? I mean, what does beautiful on the inside look like? I have finally figured out that I love hard. I love everyone. I do. And my son is the same way. I mean, if he meets you, he's just 1 minute, he doesn't know you, and the next minute you're his best friend. He doesn't even know your name, but you're friends, and you're friends for life. And we're exchanging phone numbers. So I love people. And I had to sit down and look in my mirror and say, you know what, Kelly, you're more than just this face. You're more than just, a bikini competitor. You're more than just a former model. And if people don't see it, and if they don't want to see it, then love them anyway, pray for them, bless them, give them a hug, kill them with kindness, and move on, because their opinions don't matter anymore. And I used to dote on people's opinions all the time. It was the judge's opinions. It was, what they say online is opinions, and everybody's opinion. The only opinion that really matters to me is God, myself, my son, my husband, and my family. And that's really it. And they all love me. They all support me. They all gather around me when I need them the most. That's when I say, you know what, Kelly, you've done pretty well. But the other side of the healing is forgiveness, forgiveness of others and forgiveness of yourself. And so there's been a lot of things that I have done in my life, probably because I was trying to block out the noise and block out, which is part of the drug addiction, and, going out on drug binges and just doing the things that I did when I moved to Dallas, and some of the bad choices that I made over my life. I forgave everybody else, but the hardest thing was forgiving myself, and looking myself in the mirror and saying, you know what, we all make mistakes. We're all human, and everyone else is forgiving you. Even God is forgiving you. And Kelly, you have not forgiven yourself. You beat yourself up daily for what you've done in the past, and you can't do that anymore. You can't beat yourself up. That's not how you heal, because, what happens when you re-scratch it, it opens back up again and it won't heal. So I've had to learn to forgive myself of the things that I have done in the past that have, scared the ever living daylights out of my family and hurt my husband and everybody else. So that's the biggest, is the forgiveness part. It's easy to forgive other people, especially ones that you don't see anymore. But you look at yourself in the mirror every day, and it's hard, but that forgiveness process, and I'm still working on it. And I'm not saying it's going to be an easy process, but it's an important one. It's very important.
There's a lot of grace that I think we as women extend to other people that we struggle to extend to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree wholeheartedly with that self-forgiveness piece. I know for me, I have this idea of who I want to be, what kind of wife, what kind of mother, what kind of friend. And if I don't measure up in my own estimation, who even knows what the other people are thinking? It becomes a battle royal to not destroy myself or my failure. And that's why, as you talk about in your book, how to rescue yourself and that inner courage, I think there's something powerful in finally giving ourselves permission to acknowledge what we've done right. Instead of the constant litany of what I've done wrong.
I have a letter. I keep 2 letters in my wallet. One letter is from my dad when I turned 32 years old. And it was, I didn't get a birthday card. And I really don't care. My dad's given me so much. I can't even, and he sent me a letter of telling me how proud he is of me and everything that I've accomplished at that point. And Reese was really young, and my husband and I was working with the university, and I was going into classrooms and talking to young students about college and careers. And then I was volunteering with the Denton County Sheriff's Department, and that whole letter just talked about how proud he is. And if you look at this letter, it is tattered, it is torn up. I've already made a copy so I can keep it. But the other letters, the second letter, is I got from my son. When I first said yes to Disney, I was gone for 3 months, Monday through Friday, home on Saturday, flying out again on Sunday, and the process continued. So it was my husband raising my kid and my mom helping as well. And I felt like I was the worst mother ever. I was missing spelling tests. I was missing football games. I was missing practices. I was missing all of those things that I would have been home. And I felt like, even though I was working for a dream company that hardly anybody ever gets to work for, especially from Texas, for crying out loud. And I was sitting there in my hotel room in the middle of Disney World feeling guilty because I wasn't home. And for, I think it was for Christmas, my son had to write top 10 things that I love about my mom, or they had to do a writing example. And in these top 10 things, he, talked about how I was an amazing mom, how I was beautiful, and how I was a sports mom, and how I would never give up on him, and how I was all these top 10 things of how amazing I was. And here I was over at Disney feeling like I was the worst mom ever. And my kid is over here in Texas thinking I'm the best thing since sliced bread. And that letter I call it my rainy day letters. So when I have a rough moment and I have a hard time with anything that's going on in my life, I pull out those letters and I read them, and I remind myself that the people who do really matter and care about me think that I'm the best thing. I'm their hero. I'm awesome to them. So I don't care if this guy on YouTube thinks that I'm the worst thing that ever happened to this planet. I've got people here that think I'm the best thing since sliced bread, and I own that. And it's a lot easier to own now as you turn 40 and you start having that I don't give a damn thought process anymore, but it's still very difficult to get there. And it took that letter from my son to snap me back into reality and make me realize that I am doing a good job, because he is kind. He is self-sufficient. I mean, I was driving back from Dallas to Beaumont, And he calls me. He's 13 years old, and he calls me to ask if I'm okay. How you doing, Mom? How's the drive? How's MG? On his own. Dad doesn't tell him to do that at all. Calling to check on his mama to make sure she didn't get another flat tire. But you have to remember that, there's people out there that think you're amazing, and the people that matter the most are your circle. And those are my rainy day letters. Those are good ones.
We talked a little bit before we hit record about the circle and how the circle changes as we move along in life. And I think that's why it's important that we understand our own value and not lean so heavily on other people, especially outside of our family. I feel like family is its own conversation. I know that's a place that tends to stay put. Outside of our family, when we need other people too much, we can forget,
how strong we are. I have a lot of great mentors and a lot of people, like I said in my book, I have a lot of great people that have opened up doors and opened up opportunities that I never thought were there. But I can't depend on them to get me the rest of the way. They opened up the door, they made the introduction, they helped, the handshake and, guided the conversation. And then once they walk out, it's all left on me. And that's what the book was truly about, is, learning how to become my very own hero, even though I do have so many other heroes in my life that have given me opportunities and helped me be where I am. My parents, my husband, even my son still gives me advice sometimes where I'm like, wow, where did that come from? Wow, you're 13. Okay. I gotcha. It's still, I've got to know my own strength. I've got to push through and understand that I'm strong enough to stand on my own 2 feet and do this all by myself if I have to. And if anybody wants to come along and help, that's great, and allow them in. And if it's time for them to go, then it's time for them to go and have another path for them. Like I said, when we were talking, my pastor talked about those types of folks as scaffolding. When you're building a building and you're putting the bricks and all the details and stuff up, that scaffolding is there to help build those bricks and build that beautiful building. But those scaffoldings need to be taken down and brought to another site to show all the beautiful work that has been happening behind that scaffolding. And sometimes people are scaffolding. Sometimes they're there to help build bricks with you during a certain time, or help with those details, open doors or create doors. And then it's time for them to go. And once he put that forward, I wasn't as devastated when people would leave my life like they would. Because sometimes people leave your life and you're just like, really? I mean, I thought this was okay. And you just get devastated because you think, what's wrong with me? Was I not a good enough friend? Was I not there enough? I mean, oh my God, I helped her move like 4 times. And, she was over at my house with, 3 different boyfriends that cheated on her. And, you think, oh my God, what did I do wrong? And it's not. That moment in time, they may have needed you to build them up and be their scaffolding, or you may have needed them to build you up and be that scaffolding. And then you got to go stand on your own by yourself. So it's easier to think of that way. People are there and then they leave because they're supposed to be there during that moment. And then some people just stay for forever. And that's where you're at.
That's a really great word picture, really, because life is such a puzzle, I look back sometimes and I think of all the things I've experienced and all of the relationships that have come and gone, the different, I call them iterations of my life, or the different lifetimes I've lived, depending on what I was doing in that season of my life, and how much I might have loved or not loved that season. Yet here we are, looking back and able to see why sometimes, or how that contributed to the woman that I am today, or how it impacted my family. And life just is that journey. It's just a constant building. Sometimes it's a tearing down. And I think that's the important point when we talk about being your own hero. is sometimes it's not a forward direction. Sometimes it's a bit of a backwards direction.
Yep, it is. Believe me, there's been a couple of backward directions that I've had to walk quite a few times, career-wise, family-wise, and being able to sit back and, say I have been laid off for a year. I haven't walked into an office in almost a year, like an office, and, haven't received a paycheck from a company every week or every 2 weeks in almost a year. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking and I'm like, we still have our house. We're still paying our bills. We're living on a budget, which I've learned how to live more on a budget. There are certain things that I knocked out of my life that I figured out I don't really need as much as I thought I did when I had a good salary coming in. And you just, kind of sit back and you're like, okay, so today I'm going to scrub the floors, and tomorrow I'm going to post on social media, and I'm going to have an interview on a podcast, with a new friend, Gina, about my book. And it's not inundated with meetings and conference calls and, plane flights. I used to look at my plane mileage like it was a badge of honor. Look at how many miles I have on my plane. Look how many hotel stays I get for free because I'm in hotels 24/7. I don't think, I think it was a step backwards in my career. But I think it was a step forward in walking in my true purpose and being able to be in the moment with my son, who is 13 years old and is about to leave the house and go and have his own adventures in his own life. And I don't have much time left with him. And it's been interesting, to say the least, of not being in corporate America and feeling, quote unquote, like you've taken a step back, but you really haven't. You've actually moved forward. So I think it's your view, maybe sometimes your perspective on what that step back is. And sometimes we need it just to kind of see things in a different light.
I'm processing this through the season of the world. As we are recording, it's August, but in September, this podcast is airing. And we're still in that limbo of the pandemic and COVID, and every state in America is handling it differently. And a lot of people's lives have been profoundly impacted by this world situation. And it's impacted families and jobs and health. And so I felt like this conversation about, creating inner courage to wear your own cape was so valuable, because we do have to think differently from now on. Like, there is no going back to March 2020. What is it? March 12th, the last normal day. We can't go back to that. So going forward, how are we going to reframe, approach, build this new normal? Mm-hmm. And how are we going to step into our purpose instead of focusing on what we've lost? Where can we see the opportunity in this situation?
I think first you have to stop focusing on what you've lost. I think that's the first one, because the more you think about what you've lost, the less open you're going to be to other opportunities that you may have never thought of before. Owning a trailer rental business is not the sexiest job in the world. It is, sometimes we're cleaning out trailers, changing out tires, greasing the axles, sweeping stuff out. It's 100 and something degrees weather, and I'm inside of an enclosed trailer, cleaning it out and bringing it to the next client. I'm in a dually, sometimes with a gooseneck trailer hanging on behind me. And at first I was like, this is not what I signed up for this. This is not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in a corner office and executive, and I wanted to hold important meetings and, feel all important. And then my husband was like, Kelly, and I also had a neighbor tell me this too. My husband tells me, he was like, this may not be what you were looking for, but it checks all your wants off your list for a new job. you're able to be home with your son. You're able to have a flexible schedule. You're able to still promote your book that's coming out soon. And this is, you're able to, these are all the things that you're going to be able to do. And I was like, yeah. I was like, but it's a trailer business. I mean, it's trailers. Who would have thought? I'm talking axles and double axles and triple axles and tires and, tie downs and everything else. And I was like, it's not what I thought I was supposed to be. And then my neighbor down the road, I was talking to him about the trailer business. He was like, Kelly, y'all look like y'all are in and out all the time with trailers. And I was like, yeah, we are. And he goes, so you look like you're still struggling with this. And I said, yeah, I'm struggling with it a little bit. I said, I'm still trying to find a job, and I'm still getting no's, and I'm still getting turned down. And I'm still getting rejection emails. And he was like, you've been struggling with this for a really long time. He goes, what's your list of what you wanted to have in a job? And I told him, I was like, this, and this. And he was like, it looks to me, Kelly, you've been praying for a purple door and God gave you a red door. Why aren't you opening up the damn red door, Kelly? So at the end of the day, we have things that are thrusted into us and things that are put in our lap. And we've been praying for a purple box, or we've been praying for a purple door. And that door, that box doesn't show up decorated with the bow that we wanted, but we have this red box on our front door, and we just kind of look at it and we're like kicking it around, and we may open it, may not, okay. We may not be happy about its facts. It's red, but there's the opportunity. There's all your prayers in one door or in one box. It's just not dressed up the way you thought it should be. So I think we need to stop thinking about what we've lost and start looking at the opportunities and the doors that are being opened up now, and maybe even go back to our want list, or our list that we put together when we were 10 years old as a kid. What did you want to do when you grew up? What did you want to be? And go forward. What's your side hustle? Do you have a side hustle right now? Start building on that side hustle. Start doing that. So, a good friend of mine, she's my hairdresser, but she's also an IFBB bikini pro, and she wants to up her YouTube channel. She's good at the gym. She's good at hair, but she's not good at marketing. And I was like, well, I'm good at marketing. I'm good at, YouTube, and I took all my creator classes and social media, and I was like, let's barter. So she's going to start doing my hair, and I'm taking care of all of her YouTube stuff and her social media stuff and creating videos and all that kind of. So it's just, and I don't know, that may open up other opportunities and other doors and other avenues that you never know. But I think we've got to stop looking at what we've lost. And that's what my husband and my next door neighbor taught me, is stop looking at what you've lost and start looking at the opportunities that are sitting right here in front of your face. And I can't deny that this trailer business has helped us make a living. It may not be the living that we were looking at, but it's helped us make a living. And it's hard work, but it's still living.
It's really something to let go of our preconceived notions. I find expectations hang me up specifically in this whole journey of stepping into our purpose. I think there's this need to keep the vision, keep working on the vision, clarifying the vision, and aiming for that, but allowing the journey to be what it needs to be. Right. It never looks the way we think it's going to look. It doesn't get us there the way we thought we were going to get there. And sometimes the there is different than, like you said, than we thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. But I've also found that these things are sometimes just a stop along the way. I feel like it's easy for me, at least, to think this isn't what I wanted, but it's not the end. It's right. A stop along the journey. It's not the destination. It might feel like the destination. We might be in a situation longer than we want to be, or maybe that will be the turn towards something else.
To learn from this moment. And that's the biggest one, is what am I supposed to learn? And kind of, like you said, sit back and let go of the loss and say, okay, what are my lessons here? What am I supposed to be learning in this moment that's going to help me get to, the big vision or the big dream that you've always dreamed of? But absolutely, you're so right. You're so right.
One of the things when I'm coaching women, or even just having a conversation with someone, I think we have a tendency to encapsulate our life into a moment of time as if this is all the time that we have. Right? And there's a certain courage in understanding that this is who I need to be now, but I might live another 30 or 40 years. It could happen. Mm-hmm. And am I going to be upset for the next 30 or 40 years about this moment? Or am I going to figure out, put the cape on, be the superhero, learn the lesson, figure out the thing, find the joy in the moment, but also be open to what could be next?
Yep. Which is that box, that red door that's in front of you. So, the other doors are closed and they're locked, and let it go and walk through these other opportunities and learn and get lessons. And, I'm even, because of the contacts that I've made through working for universities and Disney, you've got the Texas Workforce Solutions. He's one of my really good friends. They give grants to small businesses to send their employees to go back to school and take some courses. So when I get back to Dallas, I'm going to call Eric and, get him to figure out how we can, because we're set up as an LLC and a DBA and all that kind of stuff. So we're considered a small business. Since I've created the website, I want to learn more about Google Analytics. I want to learn more about HTML. So why not take advantage or opportunity to go and learn and get some education while I'm in this moment now to help my business grow on the e-commerce side of the house. So I guess that's just me that's the educator in me, I guess, is learning and continue to read and educate myself. But like you said, there's lessons, and we've got to stop being upset about what we've lost. And that takes time, because being laid off or being let go it's like a death. You have to go through the grief process, and that grief process, you have the different levels to go through. And, one of them was anger. And, for a really long time, I was pissed and I was angry, and, then denial and, all of those processes, but you've got to work through them just like you have lost other things in your life, and be able to get on the other side, and how can we move forward? So I can't tell people that it's no big deal that you've lost your job, because it is a huge deal. It's a part of how you pay your bills. It's a part of how you take care of your family. It's a part of how you feel like you're, contributing to, what's going on out here in the world. But it's time to step out, and it's March, we're getting into September. It's time to start looking at different opportunities that you may have never thought of before. Connect with networks, go volunteer, do what you kind of can do, meet new people. It's important to kind of step out of your own little comfort zone there in your house behind the computer, filling out application after application, because you will go nuts. You will go crazy. So get creative, have fun with it.
I think the topic of courage is different for some people than it is for others. That step of courage for someone might be leaving the house and having a conversation with a real person.
That's it. And that's okay. Just because someone's, so you see someone on TV, or you hear me say we had the courage to start our own business, doesn't mean you're less courageous. It's just our courage was at a different moment doing something different. You stepping out of your house, or even putting on makeup and fixing your hair and calling an old friend and going and meeting them for coffee is courageous enough. And own that moment and celebrate that small win, and take little steps like that to help you gain that courage. Because, even all superheroes, didn't fly the first time. It took some sputtering and some falling and some major crashing, but they had to try it. They had to step out there one day. So my courage looks completely different than other people. So don't think that you're less courageous because you stepped out of the house and said hi to someone today. That's huge, especially in this moment right now. It's a huge deal. So be proud of yourself, pat yourself on the back, celebrate that moment, and call someone and say, I stepped out of the house and I put on makeup today, and have someone celebrate with you. Call your tribe.
It's so important for us to give ourselves credit for the courageous steps that we take, acknowledging that it was courageous.
Mm-hmm. Yep. even people that are, and I tell people, because everybody, I'm not a fitness coach. I'm not a personal trainer. I hire one to help me get to that point. But people often ask me, Kelly, what can I do to lose weight? And I was like, well, the first thing is just get active. And they were like, I don't know what to do. I'm scared to walk into a gym. So people just walking into a gym, swiping the card and walking into a gym for the first time is the most courageous act that anyone could ever do, because it's so intimidating to walk into a gym sometimes with folks like me that are, walking around there like I own the place because I've been there for years and I've, worked out at almost every gym, and my uncle has owned gyms. Just those little things, just a health plan or a new different job or a new area of work. Like you've always been in this industry, maybe looking at another industry, or you've always done, marketing. Well, why not go look into e-commerce and some of the things that I'm looking into? How can you, help businesses get out there more online? And so because that's where this is all going. People are going online. So figure out different ways where you can look at who you are and just step out, ask a question, go get connected, message someone from LinkedIn, for crying out loud. Hey, I love your industry. I love what you do. Can we talk? Can we chat for a minute? Can you tell me how you got into your industry? People love talking about themselves. So just reach out, do something different that's going to help you move past, where you're at right now. There's people all over the place that are willing to guide you and give you information and give you some of the lessons that they've learned along the way, and, help you out any way possible. So courage looks different in so many different people. And it's, maybe even just going and buying a new puppy because you just want some company. I mean, that's courageous in itself, taking care of a puppy for a while. I don't know. It's different for everybody. So that's what drives me nuts about social media is you see this, you've got to have lots of money and all this, you've got to be beautiful 24/7. And these people were courageous, and this is what it looks like to be successful. And not really. I mean, success looks different in everybody's eyes. And Bill Wallace says, be a success in your own eyes, a quote that I have in my book. But first you got to define what that is. And if it's just to be happy, if it's just to be able to make a living for your family, then that's okay, because it's different for everybody.
This pandemic, this quarantine has been, I think, probably a very good thing in a lot of ways. It's been a challenge and it has been frustrating. But when in any time in history have we had something like this where the whole world was put on pause? Mm-hmm. And it's really an opportunity to stop and think, because everything stopped. You literally cannot run from yourself. There's nowhere to go.
Anything else? I mean, you see all of the movements that are going on, like Black Lives Matter and sex trafficking and everything else. I don't think a lot of people would be yelling and screaming as much as they are if they were still at work, sitting in 2 to 3 hours of traffic every day, in their desk 8 hours a day, in meetings, all that kind of stuff. And then, they're doing school functions with their kids and they're running all over the place. It has really given us some time to stop and pause and think and kind of self-reflect on ourselves, and then also self-reflect on us as a whole, as a country, as a world, to truly look at us, all parts, pretty, ugly, all of it, and say, you know what, there's some things that are going on here that I don't approve of, I don't like, and I'm going to start talking about it. I'm going to stand out. I'm going to start protesting. I'm going to be nicer, or I'm going to be more aware of labeling people because of what they look like or who they are, or, their skin color or anything like that. Or I'm going to be more aware and, educate my teenager because of the scary things that are happening online, because they are online so much now. It has really given us a time to pause and do a lot of self-reflection as a human and as a culture, as families. What we valued a long time ago is these big trips and fancy cars. And, now it's card games at home and Monopoly and watching a movie at home, hanging out together in the front yard, or, playing water trampoline in the backyard. Our trampoline just broke because we were playing way too much water trampoline with dish soap. But then also watching my son help us with the trailer business too, because he's been out of school. So I've taught him business. I've taught him how to deal with customers. He's going over the contracts with the customers. He's learned how to back up a trailer with a dually and a 30-foot gooseneck or a 24-foot bumper pull, and he's talking to customers and helping us with the business. So we're talking business, we're talking finance, we're talking taxes and expenses. And so it's really given us a moment to kind of spend more time with my son than I usually would, working, traveling, and just trying to juggle his activities and his schedule too. So it's truly given us a moment to look inward and appreciate the small things instead of, the big, huge houses and the cars and the big, massive trips and all that kind of stuff. It really has, rocked our boats. Mm-hmm. And I hope people have been able to see that, or that I hope they are starting to. I really do.
Yeah. And that takes courage too. So
a lot. To admit you're wrong, and to admit that you thought wrong, and to admit that your thinking is wrong. That takes a lot of courage to admit you're wrong. And it takes a lot of courage to sit down and have a difficult, hard conversation with another human being that has struggled so much because of their skin color, and just sit there and listen and learn and understand and hold them and let them just let it out. And I think that's what we're seeing right now is a lot of people have been emotionally just kept, and now they're sitting and they're thinking and their emotions are just blah, and they're out there. And I hope they can rein in the emotions and start coming up with ideas and thoughts on how to help everybody move forward. Yeah. But I was waiting for the emotional charge to happen. I told my husband, and I was like, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I told him in March when everything shut down, I was like, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know we're going to have protests. We're going to have people that are going to get emotional. I don't know why. I don't know when, but it's going to happen, honey. It's going to explode. He's like, nah, we'll get out of this. And I was like, because people, they start sitting and thinking, and it starts boiling, and then their emotions just come out, and, here we are. So I think everybody's starting to kind of rein it all in, and hopefully we can put some things into, steps in the right direction. It's going to take some time. A lot of love, a lot of crying, but hopefully we get there.
We've talked for an hour. It's gone so fast.
It has.
Oh my goodness. But do me a favor and just give my audience, because we've talked about so many things, let's give my tribe 3 anchor points. Mm-hmm. From your heart to theirs that you really want them to take home from this conversation. Or maybe it's something you meant to get to and didn't get to. Will you share 3 things with us?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I always tell people is you're stronger than what you think. That's from my bodybuilding days. When I'm lifting weights, if I can't lift anymore, I can. So you're stronger than you think. Also, my crown is crooked too. And that's one of the chapters in my book is no one's perfect. So if you think they are, Instagram and Facebook are lying to you. And the last one is know who your tribe is and have a tribe. Don't go out and do this on your own by yourself without other people that you can go and bounce ideas off of and help you network and help you introduce you to the right people. So those are usually the 3 things that I like to tell people. And then I always tell people that I've actually said it since forever, since I've been in business and managed teams, is I always tell them, y'all be sweet. And whether that is to be sweet to others or be sweet to yourself, just y'all be sweet. That's what I like to close things out with everybody that I meet.
Well, Kelly, I want to thank you so much for sharing your journey and for having the courage to take the advice to write the book and to persevere through the journey that didn't feel like that was ever going to come to fruition, to bring something into the world that is going to have such an impact on women's lives and even men. It's just a powerful opportunity for you to have powered through, to write this book, to live your life, to overcome addiction, all of these steps that you've been through that have brought you to the woman you are today. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
I appreciate you so much. And you be safe out there. And if you're ever out in Texas, just holler.
Today I've been speaking with Kelly Fuhlman. She's an entrepreneur, a speaker, an author of Be the Hero and Rescue Yourself, Creating the Inner Courage to Wear Your Own Cape. And today, if you head on over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 187, I will have links there to Kelly and Kelly's book. While you're there, please leave your name and email address. Join my tribe. I send periodic emails, and I do have a gift for you. Friends, it's so important, especially in this season of life. If you're catching this episode on the day that it airs or in any time of the year of 2020, it's okay. No matter what has happened to you, no matter how far you've fallen, no matter the condition or the perceived condition of your life, you can get back up, my friends. You can be resilient. You can muster the courage. It's time to dust off your cape and step into your purpose. Your healing, your future. Today is a new day. What has happened has happened. You get to rewrite the story every day of your life. Don't forget that. Build your tribe, my friends. Let's straighten each other's crowns and let's make a difference starting today. Thank you so much for listening to us. We look forward to talking to you again next week. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.